Hello, this is practice log 5 out of a lot, and I'm going to read from my book. And he does not say it, but suddenly Nassan thinks Jija couldn't. Nassan's gorge rises suddenly, sharply enough that she must clap a fist to her mouth for a moment and think hard of Ash and how cold her ears are. There's nothing in her stomach except the handful of dates she just ate, but the feeling is awful anyway. Shafa uncharacteristically does not move to comfort her. He only watches her expression. Weary, but otherwise unreadable. I know they can't do it. Yes, speaking helps. Her stomach doesn't settle, but she no longer feels on the brink of dry heaves. I know the stills won't ever stop being afraid. If my father couldn't. Queasiness. She jerks her thoughts away from the end of that sentence. We'll just go on being scared forever, and we'll just go on living like this is forever, and it isn't right. There should be a fix. It isn't right that there's no end to it. But do you mean to impose a fix, little one? Chef asks. It's soft. He's guessed it already, she realizes. He knows her so much better than she knows herself, and she loves him for it. Or an end? She gets to her feet and starts pacing, tight little circles between his pack and hers. It helps the nausea and the jittery, rising tension beneath her skin that she cannot name. I don't know how to fix it. But that is not the whole truth. And Shafa scents flies the way predators scent blood. Her eyes narrow. His eyes narrow, if you did not know. How would you fix it? If you did know how, would you fix it? And then, in a sudden blaze of memory that Nassan has not permitted herself to see or consider for more than a year, she remembers her last day in Tiramo. Coming home, seeing her father standing in the middle of the den, breathing hard, wondering what was wrong with him, wondering why he did not quite look like her father in that moment, his eyes too wide, his mouth too loose, his shoulders hunched in a way that seemed painful. And then Nassan remembers looking down and staring and thinking, what is that? And staring and thinking, is it a ball? Like the ones that the kids at Creech kick around during lunchtime. Except those balls are made of leather, while that thing at her father's feet is a different shade of brown with purplish mottling all over the surface. It's lumpy and leathery, half deflated, but no, it's not a ball. Wait, is that an eye? Maybe, but it's so swollen shut that it looks like a big fat coffee bean. Not a ball at all, because it's wearing her brother's clothes, including the pants Nassan put on him that morning while Jija was busy trying to get their lunch satchels together for Creech. Yuche didn't want to wear those pants because he was still a baby and liked to be silly, so Nassan had done the butt dance for him, and he'd laughed so hard. His laugh was her favorite thing ever, and when the butt dance was over, he'd let her put his pants on as a thank you, which means the unrecognizable, deflated ball thing on the floor is Yuche. That is Yuche. He is Yuche. No, Nassan breathes. I wouldn't fix it, not even if I knew how. She has stopped pacing. She has one arm wrapped around her middle, the other hand is a fist crammed against her mouth. She spits out words around it now. She chokes on them as they gush up her throat. She clutches her belly, which is full of such terrible things that she must let them out somehow or be torn apart from within. These things have distorted her voice, made it a shaky growl that randomly spikes into a higher pitch and a louder volume, because it's everything she could do not to just start screaming. I wouldn't fix it, Shafa. I wouldn't. I'm sorry, I don't want to fix it. I want to kill everybody that hates me. Her middle is so heavy that she can't stand. Nassan drops into a crouch, then to her knees. She wants to vomit, but instead she spits words out onto the ground between her splayed hands. Gone. I want it all gone, Shafa. I want it to burn. I want it to burn up and dead and gone. Nothing. I left no more hate and no more killing, just nothing, resting nothing forever. Shafa's hands, hard and strong, pull her up. She flails against him, tries to hit him. It isn't malice or fear. She never wants to hurt him. She just has to let go. She just has to let some of what's in her out somehow, or she will go mad. For the first time, she understands her father as she screams and kicks and punches and bites and yanks at her clothes and her hair and tries to slam her forehead against his. Quickly, Shafa turns her around and wraps one of his big arms around her, pinning her arms to her sides so that she cannot hurt him or herself in the transport of her rage. This is what Jija observes, a distant, detached, floating obelisk, part of herself. This is what came up inside when he realized Mama lied, and I lied, and Yuche lied. This is what made him push me off the wagon. This is why he came up to Foundmoon this morning with a glass knife in his hand. This is the Jija in her, making her thrash and shout and weep. She feels closer than ever to her father in this moment of utter broken rage. Shafa holds her until she's exhausted. Finally, she slumps, shaking and panting and moaning a little, her face all over tears and snot. When it's clear that Nassan will not lash out again, Shafa sit down cross-legged, pulling Nassan into his lap. She curls against him the way another child curled against him, once many years before and many miles away, when he told her to pass a test for him so that she could live. Nassan's test had already been met, though. Even the old Shafa would agree with that assessment. In all her rage, Nassan's orogeny did not twitch once, and she did not reach for the silver at all. Shh, Shafa soothes. He's been doing this all the while, though now he rubs her back and thumbs away her occasional tears. Shh, poor thing. How unfair of me, when only this morning he sighs. Shh, my little one, just rest. Nassan is wrung out and empty of everything but the grief and fury that run in her like fast lahars, grinding everything else away in a churning hot slurry. Grief and fury, one last precious whole feeling. You're the only one I love, Shafa. Her voice is raw and weary. You're the only reason I wouldn't. But I... He kisses her forehead. Make the end you need, my Nassan. I don't want... She has to swallow. I don't want you to be alive. He laughs softly, still a child despite all you've been through. This stings, but his meaning is clear. She cannot have both Shafa alive and the world's hatred dead. She must choose one ending or the other. But then firmly, Shafa says again, make the end you need. Nassan pulls back so she can look at him. He's smiling again, clear-eyed. What? He squeezes her very gently. You're my redemption, Nassan. You are all the child I should have loved and protected, and even from myself. And if it will bring you peace, he kisses her forehead, then I shall be your guardian till the world ends, my little one. Till the world burns, my little one. It is a benediction and a balm. The nausea finally releases its hold on Nassan. In Shafa's arms, safe and accepted, she sleeps at last amid dreams of a world glowing and molten in its own way at peace. Steel, she calls the next morning. Steel blurs into the presence before them, standing into the middle of the road with his arms folded and an expression of faint amusement on his face. The nearest way to Core Point is not far, relatively speaking. He says when she has asked him for the knowledge that Shafa lacks. A month's travel or so, of course. He lets this trail off conspicuously. He has offered to take Nassan and Shafa to the other side of the world himself, which is apparently a thing that some meteors can do. It would save them a great deal of hardship and danger. They would have to entrust themselves to Steele's care as he transports them in the strange, terrifying manner of his kind through the earth. No thank you, Nassan says again. She doesn't ask Shafa for his opinion on this, though he leans against a boulder nearby. She doesn't need to ask him. That Steele's interest is wholly in Nassan's is obvious. It would be nothing to him to simply forget to bring Shafa, or lose him along the way to Core Point. But could you tell us about this place we have to go? Shafa doesn't remember. Steele's gray gaze shifts to Shafa. Shafa smiles back, deceptively serene. Even the silver inside him goes still, just for this moment. Maybe Father Earth doesn't like steel either. It's called a station, Steele explains, after a moment. It's old, you would call it a dead civ ruin, although this one is still intact, nestled with another set of ruins that aren't. A long time ago, people used stations, or rather the vehicles kept within them, to travel long distances, far more efficiently than walking. These days, however, only we Stone Eaters and the Guardians remembered that the stations exist. His smile, which hasn't changed since he appeared, is still in Y and Rye. Seems meant for Shafa somehow. We all pay a price. We all pay a price for power, Shafa says. His voice is cool and smooth in that way he gets when he's thinking about doing bad things. Yes, Steele pauses for just a beat too long. A price must be paid to use this method of transportation as well. We don't have any money or anything good to barter, Nassan says, troubled. Fortunately, there are other ways to pay. Steele abruptly stands at a different angle, his face tilted upward. Nassan follows this turning and sees, the sapphire, which has gotten a little closer overnight. Now it's halfway between them and Jeketi. The station, Steele continues, is far from a time before the seasons, the time when the obelisks were built and all the lingering artifacts of that civilization recognized the same power source. You mean, Nassan inhales, the silver? Is that what you call it? How poetic. Nassan shrugs uncomfortably. I don't know what else is to call it. Oh, how the world has changed, Nassan frowns. But Steele does not explain this cryptic statement. Stay on this road until you reach the old man's pucker. Do you know where that is? Nassan remembers seeing it on the maps of the Antarctics a lifetime ago and giggling at the name. She glances at Shafa, who nods and says, we can find it. Then I'll meet you there. The ruin is at the exact center of the grass forest within the inner ring. Enter the pucker just after dawn. Don't dawdle. Reach the center. You won't want to still be in the forest after dusk. Then Steele pauses, shifting into a new position, one that is distinctly thoughtful. His face is turned off to the side, fingers touching his chin. I thought it would be your mother. Shafa goes still. Nassan is surprised by the flash of heat, then cold that moves through her. Slowly, while sifting through this strange complexity of emotion, she says, what do you mean? I expected her to be the one to do this, is all. Steele doesn't shrug, but something in his voice suggests nonchalance. I threatened her calm, her friends, and the people she cares about now. I thought they would turn on her. Then this choice would seem more palatable to her. The people she cares about now. She's not in turmoil anymore? No, she has joined another comm. And they didn't turn on her? No, surprisingly. Steele's eyes slide over to meet Nassan's. She knows where you are now, the gate told her, but she isn't coming, or at least not yet. She wants to see her friends safely settled first. Nassan sets her jaw. I'm not in Jeketi anymore, and soon she won't have the gate either, so she won't be able to find me again. Steele turns fully to face her, this movement too slow and human smooth to be human. Though this astonishment seems genuine, she hates it when he moves slowly. It makes her get goosebumps. Nothing lasts forever, indeed, he says. What's that mean? Only that I've underestimated you, little Nassan. Nassan instantly dislikes this turn of address. She shifts again to the thoughtful prose, fast this time to her relief. I think I'd better not do it so again. With that, he vanishes. Nassan frowns at Shafa, who shakes his head. They shoulder their packs and head west. Sal Angst 4. All energy is the same, though is different through its different states and names. Movement creates heat, which is also light, that waves like sound, which tightens or loosens the atomic bonds of crystal as they hum with strong and weak forces. In a mere resonance with all of this is magic, the radiant emission of life and death. This is our role, to weave together those disparate energies, to manipulate and mitigate, and through the prism of our awareness produce a singular force that cannot be denied, to make a cacophony symphony. The great machine called the Plutonic engine is the instrument. We are its tuners, and this is the goal. Geo-arcanity. In geo-arcanity, it seeks to establish an energetic cycle of infinite efficiency. If we are successful, the world will never know want or strife again, or so we are told. The conductors explain little beyond what we must know to fulfill our roles. It is enough to know that we are small and important. We will help to set humanity on a new path toward an unimaginably bright future. We may be tools, but we are fine ones put to a magnificent purpose. It is easy to find pride in that. We are attuned enough to each other that the loss of Tuttle causes trouble for a time. When we join to form our initializing network, it's imbalanced. Tuttle was our countertenor, the halfways of the spectrum. Without him, I am closest, but my natural resonance is a little high. The resulting network is weaker than it should be. Our feeder threads keep trying to reach for Tuttle's empty middle range. Gaywa is able to compensate for the loss. Finally, she reaches deeper resonance more powerfully, and this plugs the gap. We must spend several days reforging all the network's connections to create new harmony, but it isn't difficult to do this, just time-consuming. This isn't the first time we've had to do it. Kalinli joins us in the network only occasionally. This is frustrating because her voice is deep and powerful and foot-tingling, and its sharpness is perfect, better than Tetalaw's wider range than all of us together. But we are told by the conductors not to get used to her. She'll serve during the actual startup of the engine, one of them says, when I ask, but only if she can't manage to teach you how to do what she does. Conductor Gallet wants her on standby only come on launch day. This seems sensible on the surface. When Kalinli is part of us, she takes point. This is simply natural because her presence is so much greater than ours. Why? Something in the way she is made, something else. There is a held note, a perpetual hollow burn at the midpoint of her balanced lines at their fulcrum, which none of us understand. A similar burn rests in each of us, but ours is faint and intermittent, occasionally flaring only to quickly fade back to quiescence. Hers blazes steadily, its fuel apparently limitless. Whatever this held note burn is, the conductors have discovered, it meshes beautifully with the devouring chaos of the onyx. The onyx is the control Kabocon of the whole plutonic engine. And while there are other ways to start up the engine, cruder ways, workarounds involving sub-networks or the moonstone, on launch day we will absolutely need the Oxon's precision and control. Without it, our chances of successfully initiating geo-arcanity diminishes greatly, but none of us, thus far, has had the strength to hold the onyx for more than a few minutes. We observe in awe, however, as Kalinli rides it for a solid hour. That actually seems unfazed when she disengages from it. When we engage to the onyx, it punishes us, stripping everything we can spare, leaving us in a shut-down sleep for hours or days, but not like her. Its threads caress rather than rip at her. The onyx likes her. This explanation is irrational, but it occurs to all of us, so that's how we begin to think of it. Now she must teach us to be more likable to the onyx in her stead. When we are done rebalancing, and they let us up from the wired chairs that maintain our bodies while our minds are engaged, and we stagger. We must lean on the conductors to make it back to our individual quarters. When all of this is done, she comes to visit us individually so that the conductors won't suspect anything. In face-to-face meetings, speaking audible nonsense, and meanwhile, we're speaking sense to all of us at once. She feels sharper than the rest of us, she explains, because she's more experienced, because she's lived outside of the complex of buildings that surround the local fragment, which has comprised the entirety of our world. Since we were decanted, she has visited more nodes of soul inks than just the one we live in. She has seen and touched more of the fragments than just our local amethyst. She has never been to Zero Site, where the moonstone rests. We are in awe of this. I have context, she says to me. She's sitting on my couch. I am sprawled face down on the window seat, face turned away from her. When you do too, you'll be just as sharp. It's a kind of pigeon between us, using the earth to add meaning to audible words. Her words are simply, I'm older, while a witter of subsidence adds the nuancing deformation of time. She is metamorphic, having transformed to bear unbearable pressure. To make this telling simpler, I will translate in all words, except where I cannot. It would be good if you were sharp as you now. I probably wearily. I am not whining. Rebalancing days are always hard. Give us this context then, so the onyx will listen and my head can stop hurting. Kalenli sighs. There's nothing within these walls or which you can't sharpen yourself. Crumble of resentment grounded up and quickly scattered. They have kept you so safe and sheltered, but I think there's a way I can help you and the others do, if I can get you out of this place. Help me sharpen myself? She soothes me with a polishing stroke. It is not a kindness that you are kept so dull. You need to understand more about yourself, what you are. I don't understand why she thinks I don't understand. I'm a tool. She says, if you're a tool, shouldn't you be honed as fine as possible? Her voice is serene and yet a pent, angry jitter of the entire ambient air molecules, shivering strata beneath us, compressing a dissonant, grinding whine at the limit of our ability to sense. Tells me that Kalenli hates what I have just said. I turn my head to her and find myself fascinated by the way this dichotomy fails to show in her face. It's another way she's like us. We have long since learned not to show pain or fear or sorrow in any space above ground or below the sky. The conductors tell us we are built to be like statues, cold, immovable, silent. We aren't certain why they believe we actually are this way after all. We are as warm to the touch as they. We feel emotion as they seem to, although we do seem less inclined to display it in the face or body language. Perhaps this is because we have earth talk, which they don't seem to notice. This is good. On the earth we may be ourselves. It has never been clear to us whether we were built wrong, or whether their understanding of us is wrong, or whether either matters. Kalenli is outwardly calm while she burns inside. I watch her for so long that abruptly she comes back to herself and catches me. She smiles. I think you like me. I consider the possible implications of this. Not that way, I say out of habit. I've had to explain this to my junior conductors or other staff on occasion. We are made like statue in this way as well. I designed an implementation that worked in this case, leaving us capable of rutting but disinterested in the attempt, and infertile should we bother. Is Kalenli the same? No, the conductor said she was made different in only one way. She has her powerful, complex, flexible Cecipine, which no other people in the world possesses. Otherwise, she's like them. How fortunate that I wasn't talking about sex. There's a drawing hum of amusement from her. It both bothers and pleases me. I don't know why. Oblivious to my sudden confusion, Kalenli gets to her feet. I'll be back, she says, and leaves. She doesn't return for several days. She remains a detached part of our vast network. Though she is present for our wakings, our meals, our defecations, and our inchoate dreams when we sleep, our pride in ourselves and each other. It doesn't feel like watching when she doesn't. Even if she is watching, I cannot speak for the others, but I like having her around. Not all the others do like Kalenli. Gaywas, in particular, is belligerent about it, and she sends this through our private discussion. She appears just as we lose Tetala, just as the project concludes. We've worked hard to become what we are. Will they praise her for her work when it's done? She's only a standby, I say, trying to be the voice of reason, and what she wants is what we want. We need to cooperate. So, she says, this is Remwa, who considers himself smarter than the rest of us. We're all made to be equally intelligent. Remwa is just a us. The conductors kept her away until now for a reason. She may be a troublemaker. This is foolish, I believe, though I don't let myself say it even in Earth talk. We are part of the great machine. Anything that improves the machine's function matters. Anything unrelated to this purpose does not. If Kalenli were a troublemaker, Galat would have sent her to the briar patch with Tetala. This is a thing we all understand. Gaywa and Remwa are just being difficult. If she is some sort of troublemaker, that will show itself in time, I say firmly. That does not end, but at least postpones the argument. Kalenli returns the next day. The conductors bring us together to explain. Kalenli has asked to take you on a tuning mission, says the man who comes to deliver the briefing. He's much taller than us, taller even than Kalenli, and slender. He likes to dress in perfectly matched colors and ornate buttons. His hair is long and black, his skin is white, though not so much as ours. His eyes are like ours. However, white within white, white as ice. We have never seen another one of them with eyes like ours. He is Conductor Galat, head of the project. I think of Galat as a plutonic fragment, clear one, diamond white. He is precisely angled and cleanly faceted and beautiful in a unique way, and he is also implacably deadly if not handled with precision. We don't let ourselves think about the fact that he's the one who killed Tetala. He isn't who you think he is. I want Galat to look like him the way I want you to look like her. This is a hazard, flawed memory. A tuning mission, Gaywa says slowly, just so that she doesn't understand. Kalenli opens her mouth to speak, and then stops, tuning to Galat. Galat smiles genuinely at this. Kalenli's performance is what we were hoping for with all of you, and yet you've consistently underperformed, he says. We tense, uncomfortable, hyper-conscious of criticism, though he merely shrugs. I've consulted with the chief biomagistry, and she's insisted that there's no significant difference in your relative abilities. You have the same capability that she has, but you don't demonstrate the same skill. There are any number of alterations we can make to try to resolve that discrepancy, fine-tuning, so to speak. But that's a risk we'd rather not take so close to launch. Reverberate in one accord for a moment, all of us very glad for this. She said that she was here to teach us context. I venture very carefully. Galat nods to me. She believes that the solution is outside experience, increased exposure to stimuli, challenging your problem-solving cognition, things like that. It's a suggestion that has merit in the benefit of being minimally invasive, but for the sake of the project, we can't send you all out at once. What if something happened? Instead, we will split you into 2 groups. Since there's only one of Kalenli, that means half of you will go with her now and half in a week. Outside, we're going outside. I'm desperate to be in the first group, but we know better than to show desire before the conductors. Tools should not want to escape their box so obviously. I say instead. We've been more than sufficiently attuned to one another without this proposed omission. My voice is flat, a statue's. The simulations show that we are reliably capable of controlling the engine as expected. And we might as well do 6 groups as 2, says Romois. By this Essene suggestion, do I know his eagerness? Will each group not have different experiences? As I understand the outside, there's no way to control for consistency of exposure. If we must take time away from our preparations for this, surely it should be done in that way that minimizes the risk.